USCHO.com. This is the USCHO Spotlight, a weekly podcast from U.S. College Hockey Online at USCHO.com, featuring conversations with college hockey coaches and players and journalists who cover the sport.
Welcome to USCHO Spotlight for Tuesday, December 8th, 2020. I'm Ed Trefzger alongside Jim Connelly.
And joining us this week on USCHO Spotlight, his team is off to a 4-0 start and playing very well after a two-game sweep of Providence last weekend. The Eagles did not allow a goal as Boston College head coach Jerry York. Jerry, a strange season to date, I know that for you, having to kind of find the games you're playing every weekend. But when your team's playing the way you're playing, it must feel good.
Oh, it feels excellent, Jim. You know, our team is, we're really starting to come late last year. And, you know, when we lost, like, you and I've talked to 11 seniors, but we still had a core group of guys that, you know, played a lot of minutes for us last year. And they're back and they've improved. They're more experienced, you know, bigger, stronger. And you can really see that from last year moving on to this year. And, you know, our biggest challenge has been developing some young defensemen, and I think we're accomplishing that early in the season.
When I look at last weekend's series, a two-game sweep of nationally ranked Providence, a 3-0 win on Friday night at home, a 9-0 win on the road. Maybe the actual scores don't represent the games perfectly, but you know the one area, and you just mentioned the young defenseman, but you've got a great goaltender in Spencer Knight and some good blue liners back there. You gave up shots, but not a lot of those grade A shots. It felt like you managed Providence the way you wanted to.
Well, Mr. Knight had a lot of, you know, clout in that game. He made some outstanding saves, and you know he's helping breaking those defensemen. You know, so we're seeing some, you know, real improvement. I think in someone like Mitch, hadn't played hardly at all last year, and all of a sudden he's back and he's playing really well as a sophomore. And you know, Eamon is coming strong as a freshman. So there's a lot to like there, but some of the mistakes are being covered up early by Spencer, and that certainly gives them a lot of confidence, and we'll play better, I think, as we progress with more minutes for those defensemen.
One guy I want to look at, he's now leading your team in scoring, is Matt Boldy. Last season as a freshman, he didn't get going right away offensively. I think he had 3 points at the Christmas break, and then he came back and was really playing strong hockey when they were called off in early March. And I'm sure you could have expectations, but you never know, I guess, what you're going to get out of a player year to year. He has come back and picked up right where he left off.
And he's one of those young freshmen that come in now, great pedigree, been an excellent player, but he still was an 18-year-old freshman. It took him a while to adjust, Jim, you know, to everything that was going on, you know, socially, academically, you know, living in college dorms, adjusting to a higher league than he's played in against older players. And you could see flashes early, but it took him a little while. When he came back, you know, after the Christmas break, he was just, more confident. I can play at this level. And it really started everything kind of slowed down for him. And with that development was Alex Newhook, and they really teamed up with Mike Hardman. And so all of a sudden we got, you know, 3 freshmen playing huge roles for us down the stretch.
You mentioned Alex Newhook, Matt Boldy, Drew Hellison, Spencer Knight. They're all going to be missing for a little bit of time here with the World Junior Tournament. Alex has been missing the whole season, really, as he's been in Canada's camp. But the other trio, they have headed off to the American camp. First off, I guess you're somewhat fortunate. You're only going to miss them for 2 games this weekend against UConn. But first off, what is the opportunity for these players, and what do they get going to that tournament? And then secondly, with those players out of the lineup, is there some opportunity for some kids that maybe don't get the that chance all the time to play in some of the top lines or top deep here to get into the spotlight?
Well, a couple of answers to the question, Jim. They'll probably miss 4 games because coming back from the World Junior Tournament, they'll all have to go through quarantine. So, we play Northeastern on the 7th and 8th, but highly unlikely that they can, get through. I think they play the gold medal game on the 6th. So, but in any of the case, I think you're right. It gives other players a chance to play in pivotal roles for us. And we were in old school with the team yesterday. And we says, Coach Norman Dale. And they're looking at me, and I says, Hoosiers. And I had my ops guy, Cam, pull up a tape of when there was a player on the floor for the high school team that wasn't passing the ball. He took him out of the game, and the ref came over and says, Coach, you only got 4 players on the floor. You need one more. And he says, my team is on the floor. And I told our kids the same thing. This is our team. We're not going to talk about, Newark missing and Boldy missing and Knight missing and those guys. This is our team, and we're going to go move forward with it. So old school stuff, but I think the kids appreciated it.
We're talking with BC head coach Jerry York. Certainly COVID protocols have affected everybody in daily life and very much so in college hockey. How has your team adapted to all these stringent things that you have to follow on a daily basis?
I can't imagine going back when I was in college and having these restrictions. It's so different. It's so bizarre almost that, your social life is none. Your interaction with a lot of students, with professors is absolutely nil. Most of the classes are on, distance back in the dorm on their iPad. And so it's been really, really hard. But our players, want to play hockey. And I think they understand if we're going to play hockey, we're going to have to make tons of sacrifices. And, you still could do that and run into a situation where bang, you test positive. So, but we're trying to give ourselves the best chance to stay healthy and, listen to Dr. Fauci. We have our own Dr. Fauci here and Dr. Como, and he's keep pushing, social distance, mask wearing. And so the kids are calling each other out. If they're watching an NHL game on TV, put your mask on, So we're hoping. But boy, it's been a struggle for our league and for teams throughout the whole country. And I don't care what sport you're talking, but we're hoping this weekend, and we get tested, 3 times a week. So we're all negative on Monday's test. Now we got Friday.
During this early part of the season, we've been talking to some of your colleagues in coaching around college hockey. And one thing they noted that COVID and the changed schedule did was give a lot more preparation time. You think back a couple of seasons, you had maybe a couple of days or maybe the first day of full practice, you had a game. And in this year, you had maybe an extra month and a half. Did that help you out in getting your large group of freshmen ready to play this season?
I'm not sure. I like 2 weeks and just going to games. I think it was a long haul through a training camp. Like you said, there's benefits, but there's also negatives to practicing. We went 40 practices without a game, and that gets old in a hurry. So hopefully we use it the best we could, but I'd much rather, have a shorter training camp and right into games, because there's a whole difference playing at this level, a game, right, in practice. So, and we've been very fortunate. We've got 4 games in, and now we're hoping to play 2 more this weekend. So, trying to stay healthy and stay all negative tests through the week here.
We're talking with Boston College head coach, that's Jerry York. And I do want to ask you about UConn this weekend, Jerry. But before that, you are coming up on yet another coaching milestone. You're just a few games short of 1,100 wins. And I know you're very good about not talking about yourself, but 1,100 wins means a lot of success. Can you just kind of quickly, maybe it's not quickly because it's hard to do, but just reflect a little bit on all those wins and so many great teams?
Oh, that's a hard, long answer. So, we're more interested, at least I am, in this afternoon's practice, trying to organize it and get ready for practice. But it does seem like when I first started, I'm going to talk to my wife and saying, I don't know how long I'm going to stay in this thing. I was driving a car through Ontario, recruiting a snow night, and I came back at about 3 a.m. And I said, this is a little harder than I thought it was going to be. But then it just kind of grew to love it. The practices, the preparations, the recruiting, the travel, the different teams, and all of a sudden it's bang. It's been a lot of years. But this afternoon, I'm looking forward to today's practice and get ready for those Huskies on Friday and Saturday.
Oh, you mentioned the Huskies, UConn. They were able to get a couple of games in against UMass the first week of the season, but they've had a lot of time off now. Probably they're itching to go as well. What do you know about Mike Cavanaugh's team? I know you had Mike on your staff for a long time. Does that help at all, or do they really just play a system of hockey that is kind of unique to UConn?
Well, just knowing Mike and working with him for so many years, that his team's going to be well prepared. Is very, very competitive. He's got great compete to himself and whoever he hires on his staff there with Joe, and so it's always a good battle. I think really when I look at other coaches throughout the country, he's one of the real top young guys, and he's getting experience, and he's just getting better and better down there, which is becoming a tough out, that's for sure.
Well, it should be a great series. Starts at Boston College Friday evening, and then a Saturday matinee game down at UConn in Storrs, Connecticut. Jerry, always love talking to you. We appreciate your time. A great start for your team, and keep it up. And we'll hopefully be talking to you again as the season goes on.
Quick turnaround, but hey, we like to play hockey and get on the bus and get out and play on Saturday.
Right now, every hockey game you play is probably a good one. So Thanks for your time, Jerry.
All right, thanks, Paul. Have a good day, guys.
That's Boston College head coach Jerry York. We'll be back with more of Spotlight in a moment.
This is the USCHO Spotlight, a weekly podcast from US College Hockey Online.
This is USCHO Spotlight. I'm Ed Trefzger alongside Jim Connelly. Jim, we always enjoy talking to Jerry York, and I was not surprised at his humility in approaching 1,100 wins. It's never been for him about himself, but always about his teams and always looking forward to the next day. And that is a big part of what has made him so successful.
You're absolutely right by that. And I go back to 5 years ago when I believe Jerry was going to pass Ron Mason as the all-time winningest coach. It was about 5 years ago to the date. It was right after Christmas in that season. And I tried to talk to Jerry a little bit for the feature I was writing, and it was useless. He did not want to talk anything about his career. He didn't want to even kind of mention the fact that he was at a milestone. I think even after he won a game. They won a game out in Minnesota at the Mariucci Classic over Alabama Huntsville at like 3:00 in the afternoon that nobody watched. But there was a local TV station from Minnesota. They were asking him about the wins record, and he said, "No big deal. I think we're just going to go over to Campus Pizza and have some good pie." That's Jerry for you. I had to talk to a bunch of his former assistant coaches. He mentioned Mike Cavanaugh. Mike gave me a lot of great information about Jerry, and he obviously got to 926, then he got to 1,000, and here we are 5 years later. He's, I think he's 3 wins away from 1,100. So just such a, he has such staying power in this game. And I get the question, and I probably get it 3 to 5 times a year. When's Jerry York going to retire? And I always answer never. I don't feel, you hear him talking about long recruiting trips from Clarkson up into Ontario in the snow and getting home at 3:00 in the morning and how he almost gave this thing up, in year one. But here we are half a century later and Jerry's still coaching. And I don't feel that he is anywhere near giving up. He's like a really good racehorse that you're ready to put out to pasture and let them have the last 5-6 years of their life just eating grass on a farm, but they won't stop running and they're running into things in a field, and you realize I've got to put them back on the racetrack. That's Jerry York. You can never take him off the racetrack of hockey. He loves it so much. I think that it wouldn't work. Retirement doesn't feel like something that would ever work for him.
Just to show you how remarkable that number of wins is, you always say it's unlikely. Nobody's ever going to break the record, but records always do get broken. The only guy around right now who's in a position to break that record has to coach for another 40 years or so, and that's David Carl at Denver, who started as a head coach at about the same age Jerry York was at Clarkson. That's how remarkable it is. And, in the year 2060, maybe David Carl will be looking at knocking on the door of Jerry York's record.
Yeah, there were some coaches that I kind of felt maybe would get there. Rand Pecknold out at Quinnipiac. But then you look at average number of wins you have to have each year and number of years left, and that would be a tough one. And Ryan Soderquist got a really early start at Bentley, and you've got to put up those 20 and 30 win seasons to get there. I mean, you look at some of these national championship teams that Jerry York had, and they're getting 35 plus wins in a season. For a lot of coaches, that's 2 seasons worth. So the ability for Jerry and every team, whether it's Clarkson, Bowling Green, or Boston College, they've had so much success, so many wins. It is a number that's going to be hard for anybody to ever catch.
Just quickly talking about this year's BC Eagles, they not only are off to a good start, but it was interesting to hear Jerry York talk about giving some of those other players a little bit more opportunity while the World Juniors are going on. That can only make this Boston College team better down the stretch.
That's for certain. I always talk about this as an opportunity. And there are certain clubs that have more experience in this, Boston College being one of them. They have sent, large contingents to the World Junior Championships year in and year out. And you see Boston University, Michigan, Minnesota, some teams like that have gone through it multiple times. And they're going, all of them, well, Boston University, unfortunately not, but everybody else will be sending, 3 to 5 players to the World Juniors this year. And it really does create that opportunity for players that are, maybe you're the number 6 defenseman and suddenly you're up into the 3 slot or the 2 slot, or maybe the 3rd or the 4th line center, and now you're up onto the 2nd line and you're playing with some seniors who have a little, some more talent. It's just an opportunity. You're gonna, Boston College is not gonna have Spencer Knight this weekend, and it sounds like they won't have him against Northeastern when they come back from the holiday break. And that changes things, and but it also puts young players in positions to get the experience, show what they can do, maybe open the eyes of a coach, and you never know what that does to a lineup in terms of just injecting. And the other part of that too is that injuries are inevitable in college hockey, and if you sustain some injuries to maybe your top end center or your top end winger or your number 1 or 2 defenseman, you pop that player right up because they've had that experience and proven that they can handle it. And it can only be beneficial, I would think, for the Eagles team.
You mentioned Spencer Knight, and I think we'll end with this. I think this short season, this odd season, is starting to look like the season of the goalie. I mean, he's been off to a great start at a pair of shutouts, and he wasn't. He was very much tested against Providence last weekend. You look at him and you look at some of the other goalies around that are off to great starts. It's going to be a tough one to pick the Mike Richter Award winner, although I think maybe young Spencer Knight has a good shot at that, and maybe it might even be the leader there. But I'm thinking this might even be a year where, again, goalies start getting into the conversation for the Hobey Baker Award.
I think that's certainly possible. You mentioned Spencer Knight. You can look at Jack LaFontaine out at Minnesota. He started hot. Tommy Napier, very good numbers at Ohio State. Maybe the team isn't having as much success as Minnesota, say, but you're still looking at some of these goaltenders that are putting up some huge numbers. Even Strauss-Mann out at Michigan. I know that he gave up a number of goals in the Penn State game, brought some of his averages down, but there are some excellent goaltenders right now, and there's some that are waiting just to get going. There's teams out there that haven't even had a chance to play yet, and you don't know where you're going to get. So it does feel like this could be a goaltender's year. I left out Hank Johnson, who we talked about on a weekend review out at Mercyhurst, who had 86 of 90 saves this first weekend of the season when they played Bowling Green. So there are a number of really strong goaltenders right now in the mix, and it's only going to get stronger. There's just there's so much opportunity this talent. We've seen this position change year over year over year, and right now we're seeing some real strength in goaltending across the nation.
Well, we'll see what develops, but certainly a great Boston College team in the offing so far, it seems, and always a privilege to talk to the legendary Jerry York. For Jim Connelly, I'm Ed Trefzger, and we'll catch you next time.
This has been the USCHO Spotlight, a production of U.S. College Hockey Online. Visit uscho.com/podcasts to listen or subscribe.